This is the Whatever You Say podcast.
Hard times create hard men. Hard men create soft times. Soft times create soft men. Soft men create hard times. We are now around soft men in hard times. People think that you should be weak and you should be docile. No, you should be a monster and then learn how to control it. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. This doesn't mean that you can't be kind if you're strong, but it does mean you can't be strong if you're weak.
Hey, fuck you, man! Who put this thing together? Me! That's who! Who do I trust? Me!
This is the Whatever You Say podcast.
Is this thing on? Once again, live in the Whatever You Say studios, I got someone who brings a name in the city. If you in the 405-918-580 area, you know this fella. And we're going to get all in this business for a little bit. He gave me a little bit of time, and I'm going to dig out as much as we can. Appreciate everybody who tunes in to the Whatever You Say podcast. I'm Ivory Towns. You know that already, though. Shout out to the sponsors, Cibo Alto, CIBO.ALTO, Higher Level Cuisines. Check them out on IG. Eat the smoke. That's all I'm going to say.
If you know, you know.
Listen, let's get right into it. I don't know how long we got. But welcome this dude to the show. Sooner great. Lawton, Oklahoma great. And now he's keeping that lineage going with his sons. And they kicking up dust right now. Welcome to the show. Without further ado, Mr. Charles Thompson. CT, how we doing, man?
Man, good. I appreciate coming on the show with you, man. I know you've been trying to get me on for a little while. I'm glad to be able to come and get on today. Let's talk a little sports, man. You know, we started all back in the old days.
Yeah, man.
In the locker room days.
Yeah, and we're old enough to even go there. Old days. You know what I'm saying? It's been a while. Yeah. The locker room. If you're out there in Lawton, Oklahoma, you know.
Yeah.
You know what that's all about.
No, it's good. So I'm glad to be here with you, man. Certainly. Let's dive in and get where everyone need to get to. I'm here to talk about. What do you say? What's the name of the show?
Whatever you say.
Whatever you say. Let's get in it.
Whatever you say, man. Just like you in the locker room. Whatever you say.
That's it. You know me. I didn't pull no punches in the locker room.
No doubt.
We ain't gonna pull any punches here.
It's been a minute, CT, since I talked to you. How'd that pandemic stuff go for you, man?
You know, I mean, it didn't faze me hardly any at all.
Made it out there healthy?
Yeah, I came out healthy. I did have COVID once.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you a funny story. I had COVID, and so dealt with it. And then I was laying there one day in the bathroom. And, actually, let me back up. So a friend of mine said, hey, you might ought to take some zinc. That'll help flush that COVID out.
Uh-huh.
So I said, okay. So I went to the store, brought some zinc, started taking zinc. Took some one evening. I thought, you know what? I didn't know if it helped me or not. But, you know, like most hard-head folks say, I said, well, you know what? Vitamin C, you can never have too much vitamin C.
Right.
So I said, let me take a little bit of extra zinc.
Okay.
What I didn't know was the morning I woke up, I took 2 or 3 zincs without eating. And Ivory, I thought I was dying of COVID in the middle of my bathroom. I laid down, and I said, Lord, this is how you going to take me, huh?
When you started that story, you said I was laying down in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, listen, and I laid down, and I said, Lord, I thought I was dying of the COVID deal. And so when I woke up, I was like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I got on the phone. I was talking to one of my buddies, and I said, hey, man, I don't know. I thought it was COVID, but something wasn't right. He goes, what'd you I said, I took some zinc. He goes, well, how much did you take? I said, well, I took 2 or 3 deals. He goes, well, go see how many milligrams they were. Well, I didn't realize I took almost 150 milligrams of zinc.
1,000 milligrams.
And I didn't know you could OD on zinc.
I never heard of that. Me neither.
You know, Doc. Trust me.
I know.
So my body was sweating, and I went in convulsions. It was kicking all the zinc out because it had too much in my system.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson learned. I learned something that day.
Too much of anything can hurt, man.
Yeah, sometimes that is true.
Too much of anything. Broccoli, water, zinc. I mean, that's just.
You
let
some people
goes,
tell you
man.
Too much money will hurt if you don't
too
know
much
what to do
money,
with it.
all that, man. All that, man. that pandemic, that quarantine stuff, that was a crazy time, man. People showed their true colors during that time. And I know you're a man of the people. You know, you got a lot of things going on. How did that affect or has it affected any of your relationships and things like that going forward?
Well, in the oil business for a while, it really hurt us. I've been in the oil business down for quite a while.
Yeah.
And that pandemic and everything that went on, I mean, it hurt the oil business pretty bad. So we had a little bit of what they call a downturn on top of the other normal things with going through with the election and things of that nature. It really hit hard with shipping and trucking and all those sort of things.
All that.
So it was a tough time. It's ironic. After we came out of the pandemic, the first major, I think we had the shutdown, and then that next season, though, spring and summer, from a youth football standpoint, we had some of our biggest turnouts.
Really?
I think people were just ready to get out. When we first opened up back at our ballpark and had events, we had record numbers of people that were coming. I think it had a lot to do with the pandemic. They just wanted to get out of the house.
What was that last one you did?
We did the last one here recently, the Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans. I remember I've been a part of that a few times.
Well, you did. You did the broadcasting of some stuff for me.
Yeah.
And you cut many radio spots for me on a lot of those events as well.
Yeah, man. I remember doing the PA system for a few of those.
That was our league championship games we had at our high school.
Okay. Out there in Moore.
Yeah, out there in Moore. We had them at
Sophomore.
You did Sophomore High School.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
Nah, man. You put on some good events, and a lot of people do show up. You know what? And you led me right into this next question. It's kind of on the bad side of it, but unfortunately, you see a lot of these parents and these coaches, ruining these youth events, football, basketball. They fighting. I saw about a month ago, Aqib Talib's little brother shot a guy right there at a youth football event in front of everybody. Of course, he's going to have to deal with charges coming up. What going forward? I mean, what do you do to ensure safety? Is it just about hiring more security, checking people a little more tougher at the gate?
Well, I mean, Ira, it's really a tough question to answer because I don't know. You can never
Can't
really
control people.
Yeah, you can't really control.
Right.
If people are crazy, they're crazy. I mean, some people do foolish things no matter where they are at. Not how much control you have. And the ironic part about that whole Talib story, we were affiliated with that organization.
Yeah.
We had collaborated and done a Big 12 Youth Football Association. So we had championship games in affiliation with the Big 12. They were the Big 12 South. We were the Big 12 North. And last year our champions met in the Dallas Star Indoor Complex. So that was really a tragic deal.
It's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, and you hear stories all over. I mean, there was some incidents that happened down in Florida. What we tried to do is instill a zero tolerance kind of behavior that instills from the parents. And we tell coaches and parents that they come into our complexes now, it's a zero tolerance.
Yeah.
If you want to run your mouth over there, the sidelines, as a parent because you didn't like a call, and listen, I yell at my TV every Sunday, not agreeing with the call, but I'm not going to go out and act a fool about it. And I think, unfortunately, we do have some parents that feel that they need to. And so we just have a zero tolerance with it. And so what we try to do is we'll call a game. Just that's it.
Game
the game. And I've had that happen since that incident. We had a zero tolerance in the game, and it was just kind of like parents want to keep talking trash to the referees, and the referee said, "You know what? That's ball game."
Yeah.
And called it. And then parents come to me and say, "Well, nope."
Hey.
As long as the game is going on, the referee is the sheriff. He is the head honcho on that field. And it's your responsibility to abide by what he set forth. If you have a rule interpretation, then come see me. Mm-hmm. But in terms of governing play calls, opinionated calls,
and emotions,
I'm not going to have anything to do with that.
Right.
And he's going to be he's going to be the one that gives me. If he tells me it's out of control, I'm gonna back him on that because we see now, Ivory, people getting shot.
Where it can go, man. Where it can go. Parents, come on, man. You're better than that. Act like it anyway.
Well, and Ivory, listen, that's the most difficult thing about, I've been involved in youth sports for over 23 years, mm-hmm. and I've been around all of it. I mean, I've seen it all. Haven't been any part of any shootings per se, but I've been in part of I've seen some brawls.
Right.
I mean some melees. Not that those are any different than the person getting shot. Unfortunately, someone lost their lives, but it's really about the parents. Like, listen, and I've had 3 sons that have gone through this deal, so it's a little bit different. I was probably more emotionally involved on son number 1 than I was on 2 and 3. And I think from a veteran now from it all, I look back and I tell parents, man, at the end of the day, this is great, but it isn't going to decide anything moving forward. 3 or 4 years from now, they're going to forget about it.
Yeah.
So quit acting like it's the end of the world or it's an do all, win all right now kind of deal. It's an experience. Take it for what it's worth, and hopefully you're putting them on the right path, on the right team, that a coach can help them develop and learn how to compete. It's called the business of football, and it starts at an early age. You got to and I always say this, and I quote Deion Sanders as saying this, if you're going to be a football player, no matter how you look at it, Ivory, you have to develop the football grit. And that means you got to go get that smoke. Yeah. You got to go put your head in there. And I tell people all the time, the younger you can get people used to dealing with the smoke, the easier it is as they get older that they can handle that. Listen, we talk about my son Casey. He talks about that all the time. In fact, he was being 2 weeks ago. He was being yelled at on the sideline of a Nebraska game when they played Indiana, and the coach was laying into him.
Mm-hmm.
In the post game, they asked about it. You know what he said? He said,
I was going to bring this up to you later on in the thing, but now go ahead. We spilled it open, and I know exactly what he said. Basically, he said that wasn't shit. I was raised by Charles Thompson.
That's basically what I mean. Because trust me, anybody that's played for me, they'll tell you I don't borrow anything. I get them ready for the real deal, and I tell them and parents, you can't play this game being cupcakes. Yeah, you got to deal with the emotional and the physical that comes with it, and it's not just physical. There's emotion. There is pressure. If you can't handle pressure, I told my son, go play another position because there's always going to be pressure playing the quarterback.
No doubt about it. CT, can you tell he was a quarterback? Can you tell that? You're from Lawton, Oklahoma, right?
Yes, right.
Give me what was Lawton like? Was it heavy sports? If you were involved in your sports, you took it serious, and you were going to go to the moon with it? Because give me some names of some guys that came out of Lawton.
Listen, for me, it was, sports has been who I'm about. Uh-huh. So I can't give you a perspective from someone else's point of view. I can tell you from Charles Thompson's point of view, it was sports or die for me.
This was it.
I was born and raised for it, and I've just been about it.
The academics was like, we'll get over that.
It's not that I didn't. I was obviously, you got to have academics to be successful and to move forward. But, I was all about
60-40 athletics.
Yeah, probably.
Ain't no wrong with it.
Actually, probably 70-30.
70-30. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with it.
It was 70 athletics. I might even go 80-20. I'm just being real with you. It was, I wasn't going to go be no Einstein doctor.
Right.
But I was born to run fast, and God gave me some gifts, and that's what I was focused on.
Charles showed up on test day. That was it.
Sometimes.
Give me some of those guys out of Lawton. Give me some. Will Shields.
Will Shields.
Kansas City Chief.
Kansas City Chiefs. Will Shields. We had Dewell Brewer.
Yeah.
Came out of there. We had Von Lusby, which was a little bit before our time. He ended up being in the Indianapolis Colts. We've had James Trapp.
Remember Trapp?
James Trapp.
Yeah.
Guy that no one probably knows about is a guy that played quarterback behind me at Lawton High. He actually ended up playing baseball and caught Randy Johnson when they won the World Series when he was with the Diamondbacks, Kelly Stinnett. There's been a lot of talented guys that have come out of the Lawton area that is going to consider. It's not a big town. It's the third largest in Oklahoma. That's not really saying a lot, but it's been an athletic town.
The term plight of a black quarterback. Did that exist back then? And if not, how has that changed over the
when you ask that question, Ivory, be more definitive about what is because that when I hear the plight of the black quarterback, there's two sides of that I can answer that.
Okay.
When you say back then, the plight of the quarterback back then was pretty much a understanding that you wasn't going to be a quarterback. You were going to be something else.
There you go.
So when I came out of college or came into college, obviously it was a dream of mine to be quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, but I don't know that I necessarily saw myself as an NFL quarterback. That just wasn't – at the time, there were very few black quarterbacks in the league anyway. It was Randall Cunningham, Give me the Chiefs. Give me the Redskins quarterback.
Won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Williams.
Yeah.
Doug Williams.
Who was that?
Doug Williams.
Doug Williams, right.
Uh-huh.
And that was really, there weren't that many, Ivy. And so to
Warren
look at
Moon.
But even Warren Moon, right, they were, but I'm saying there wasn't a whole lot of,
Yeah.
And so when I looked at myself and most black quarterbacks, remember, during that time, we made our bread and butter by running the ball and the wishbone and being running quarterbacks. It wasn't about, how well you could throw the ball. And so the plight of the black quarterback back in those times was be the best you could be on the collegiate level, make enough noise you can make, and get an opportunity in the NFL playing another position. That was the plight of the black quarterback then. I think it's transcended a little bit to today. Let me back up. In between that transition of today, I think that people reluctantly has come around to the cycle of the black quarterback has a home or has a way to be successful in the NFL. In between that process, there were people that were barriers that broke that. And I think you mentioned Warren Moon, you mentioned Michael Vick. You think about it. If Michael Vick was playing now with what they're doing with the NFL quarterback, he would be a better version of Lamar Jackson. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how dynamic I think he was. But even then, people criticized Michael Vick back then. There's a hard critique on that. There was this notion of the NFL quarterback was about a 6'4", blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy.
Right.
Let's be real honest about it.
Yeah.
I think when you now look at the NFL, and I think it was back. I remember when people talked about the spread offense when it became popular in the collegiate level. People talked about that's a college thing. It'll never make it to the NFL. Well, look what you're looking at today. Today, you have the college and the NFL almost being the same.
And it had to happen. It was inevitable because that's where the NFL gets their players from the college game and from those college systems. So if you're a coach that's innovative and say, you know what, let's not try to fit a square peg in a round hole. Let me go ahead and work with what the kid already knows. And it's some of this college RPO, type style that we're playing with right now. Is it fair to even throw that term out there now? I think you and I believe it is, but
which term exactly?
Plight of a black quarterback.
I think it's still fair.
Deshaun Watson just got $230 million.
Yeah, but he's
guaranteed.
But most of think about this for a minute.
The plight ain't financial,
right? But there's still heavy critique when it comes to comparing the black quarterback to them.
And that's where I'm looking at my notes. That's where my two issues were what the black quarterbacks have to deal with. Consequence and tolerance.
Let me point out how this transition really happened about.
Uh-huh.
There was a time where offense was what it was in college and even in the pros to a degree. But what happened is somewhere in college and transition to pros, people started saying, I'm going to take that great athlete.
I want that.
And put him on defense. So as defense got faster, offenses need to be a little bit more dynamic. So now, all of a sudden, when you got defensive ends, Ivory, that can run 4.4s and 4.5s, now you didn't want to have a quarterback that just was a stationary target in the pocket because why? That's the bread and butter of your team. No matter if it's high school, college, or pros, the teams go as the quarterback goes. And so I think what happened was the NFL, as the defense is starting to get even bigger, stronger, faster, they started saying, I can't have a sitting duck back there.
Right.
So who became the prime candidate to benefit from that? The black quarterback.
All right, I think I know the answer to this next question. You brought up Lamar Jackson. What are you doing with Lamar Jackson? You paying him?
Yes.
More than
Whatever you say.
Deshaun?
Whatever you say.
Probably.
My issue is football's a salary cap sport. And you see it every time a quarterback gets a big contract. If I give Lamar Jackson, and the Cleveland Browns will feel this once they get into Deshaun Watson's contract. You pay these guys this money, you're going to lose your weapons. There's not enough money to go around in a salary cap sport. So I hate to say it, I wouldn't pay Lamar Jackson. I would try to talk him down to 180 all I could. Because if I give him Deshaun Watson money, and once again, the Cleveland Browns will feel this, you're not going to be able to hold on to your weapons. That's on both sides of the ball.
But let's look at this on the flip side of it.
I love you, Lamar. I love you.
So the Green Bay Packers, there's always been talk about Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers,
You just saw it, yeah.
unbelievable talent, but you there have an organization who's never gotten him weapons.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but the pressure to win is still on him. You know, no one talks about the GM. No one talks about the head coach. When the Packers lose, who they bring first and criticize first?
Yeah, it's quarterback.
The quarterback. So, unfortunately, there is a tremendous amount of pressure. There's also a tremendous amount of reward that should come with that position. And so, in my opinion, this is, you've been paying all the other cats this money for years to come, and let the brothers get theirs too.
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense, right?
That's how I look at it.
It makes sense, and he's the leader of the team, and the face of the franchise. It makes sense to make sure that guy's taken care of too. But the style of play, it only takes that one play for him to come around that corner and take a hit.
But that's why, Ivor, you see, because I know everybody's paying attention. No, it ain't gonna happen. They're going to protect that investment.
Hey.
You look at what the rules are being changed. Now they're telling you can't even really tackle a quarterback.
What'd you think of that when you saw the other day? Tom Brady and
Well, Tom Brady was a sham. I thought the other one the other night.
That's the worst I ever saw.
Yeah, Tom Brady, that was a sham. The other one the other night when the I believe the
Chiefs and
Chiefs,
Raiders.
that one was also, but follow the numbers, follow the money. That's the quarterback is what drives ratings in the National Football League.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, the owners are going to protect their number one investment. So that's why they're looking at all these things. And everyone looked at it from a Tua Tagovailoa incident, but they've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
So they now had the implementation they had the reason now to force the NFL's Players Association to come along with them. And so that's why you saw immediate change to the rules, because the owner's been trying to get this way for a long, long time. And, I just think it's tough. For a defender, when you're rushing a quarterback, to figure out how to attack him.
Yeah.
And they're almost going to get to the point they might start playing tag.
You might as well. The Tom Brady one, you mean to tell me I can't even grab a guy by the waist and kind of sling him down? I didn't put my weight on him. I can't even do that. And it's shame on Tom Brady because he tried to kick the guy as he was getting up off of him.
Right.
He tried to kick him, and then he turned to the referee and was like, "Hey, you're not gonna call that?"
And then the flag came.
Right. So that was foul on Brady's part, for you to even to call for like he said, a long hug.
But
That's
here's
all
the
it
deal,
was.
though. I'll be quite honest with you. I don't really fault Tom Brady. Here's why.
Well, he's an OG, and he know he'll get that call.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if that was me, I'm probably looking at, hey man, come on, help me out. I'm trying to listen. At the end of the day,
because they was coming back.
but at the end of the day, what's the name of the game?
You got to win, man.
That's it. So it's by any means necessary within the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's been times I played the game where a guy was probably got a legitimate hit on me, but come on, ref. He grabbed my face mask that time. Watch it next time. So that stuff happens a little bit.
Yeah. Charles Thompson, folks, you can tell this guy's a quarterback. Anything vouching for quarterbacks, he's with it.
Always and forever.
And then on the other side, people say, "What plight? Deshaun Watson got 230. Look, see what Lamar Jackson's going to get. Look what Kyler Murray just got." And it's like, well, I get that. Financially, there is no plight, but consequence and tolerance, right?
Well,
how much are we going to put up with when this quarterback messes up? It seems like the black quarterback gets a little more
scrutiny,
than the other ones. And his leash is a little bit shorter if he steps out of bounds or if his play starts to fall off a little bit.
Well, I always go back to, listen, man, at the end of the day, every one of these individuals are human beings, and none of us are perfect. I think when you're always trying to find a reason to claw at somebody, you can find one if you just keep clawing long enough.
No doubt.
There's no way that every other quarterbacks around the league don't have anything to find. They don't have the rock they don't want you to turn over. I just know that every
Whatever
time
you
it
say.
seems when
Whatever you
situations
say.
come about
Whatever you say.
with the black quarterback, it seems to be they find that rock awful quick, and they throw it in the face of us media-wise like unbelievable. speaking of, let's not even get into the Deshaun Watsons, but let's just talk about the Kyler Murray thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like how ridiculous was that?
I need you to study.
Yeah, I mean, like how ridiculous was that? You know, for not the fact that it was in there. I'll be honest with you. The fact that they made it out to be like he wasn't doing something
And publicized it.
Yeah, there's no way you got to that level, and I don't care how much. Listen, everybody studies different. I'm sure Deion Sanders will tell you there's certain things I did or didn't do, but God gave me a gift. I just was good at it. So to think that Kyler Murray got in the National Football League and he don't study at all, no. Maybe that was just a way for them to try to put some. Because here's the deal: every team, Ivy, is always trying to look to find a way to save money, to protect money. So they put incentives in there. So I'm gonna get you to this number.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you this 180 million, but here's some incentives
Mm-hmm.
that before we give you that. And so that's one of those deals. And it just so happened that caught wind publicly and people ran with it. But I think it's ludicrous and funny for anybody to think a quarterback in the National Football League is not studying at all.
And nobody ever said, Carson Wentz, I need you to study a little bit more. Never heard that. I never heard Derek Carr. What are your study habits like? What's going on
There's
out here?
tons of them.
And on the flip side of that, whoever this anonymous guy was, Lamar Jackson, I don't care if you win 12 MVPs, you're not a number one quarterback. That's the other part of it. Ridiculous.
Back to our original point, pay Lamar's money, man.
Yeah. Give him his money. As an owner, I can't lie. I do my part, too, and try to talk him down to 180. But he could fly my jet whenever he wanted to. No problem. Talked about your kids. Your son, Casey, at Nebraska right now, starting quarterback, doing his thing, transferred from Texas. By the way, I don't think people realize Casey led the Big 12 in touchdown passes that last year at Texas.
Well, you know, it's funny.
With 24 touchdowns.
It's funny. It's funny, Ivy, that, you know, I'll pull up a statistics. It's all about like factors.
Uh-huh.
You know, when you look at what Quinn Ewers did the other day, pretty good, pretty impressive. In fact, we'll throw the numbers out there, and just for example, just kind of
Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers,
Uh-huh.
which was the guy that everyone wanted out of Texas.
Uh-huh.
And it really didn't have that wasn't a real like a major issue while we left.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the other BS that went with dealing with some of the things that was happening down in Austin. A lot of politics. The fan base is more like they expect everything to be, I don't know. I got to be honest with you. They're different than the OU fans because OU has a reason to be optimistic each year because they won.
Right.
That's why they're going through a tough time now.
Texas fans
They think they're going to be good every year, and they haven't
talking
been.
all that ain't did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they think they were, you know, it's like so.
Talk to them sooner.
You know, so and I've been down there. You know, I've been down there for 3 years dealing with it,
Right,
so I know
right.
firsthand. My son was quarterback. I was trying to pull up Ivy here real quick some statistics of
For Hewers.
what he did this past game. Yeah,
And Texas seems to be back on the right side of things.
yeah. I mean, and that's what it
see what
appears. I
happens.
mean, we've thought that before. Here it is, right here. I got it.
Okay.
So Quinn Ewers the other day was 21 for 31.
Uh-huh.
289 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good day, isn't it?
It's a good day.
Last year, Casey,
Mm-hmm.
20 for 34, 388 yards,
Mm-hmm.
5 touchdowns, and no interceptions.
Okay.
Okay? What's the difference?
One more touchdown for Casey.
Winning changes the narrative. Last year, Texas, who scored just about the same amount of points with that performance, 48 points last year. The defense gave up 55, though.
Right.
This year, Quinn Ewers and the Texas offense scored 49, but the defense would give up 8 points.
Now,
And listen, as much as they want to, and think about it, Ivor, you watch the game. Think about that. And you and I have always talked about this. Once again, this goes back to the plight of the black quarterback.
no doubt.
Listen, I get it, but you look at how they talked about Quinn Ewers, they already got him in the pros.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Think about it. Off of 1 quarter from Alabama, they thought he's a guy, you know, this, that.
Yeah.
So it's just a plight of everything. He came out number 1 quarterback.
You can't tell me the mullet doesn't help either down there in Texas.
Yeah, but listen, the one thing I'll tell you is this. Casey obviously wanted to leave. He got opportunity to graduate from Texas, got his degree. And one of the things that I've always said to my kids, and Kendall was the same way. I think you were around.
Yeah.
When Kendall left, and you get your degree.
From OU to Utah.
You get your degree, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Casey said, I got my degree, I'm out. And so I think he thought when he made the decision right there towards the end of the year that he was leaving, really before the season was over with.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted. I talked him into going back that last year. To be quite honest with you, he was out of there.
He was ready, huh?
Yeah, he was ready.
What's Kendall doing now anyway?
He's here. He's back here. He finished his NFL career up with the Redskins and the Rams, and came back here and has got 2 daughters now. I got 2 granddaughters, and married and working for Bristol Myers Squibb Pharmaceuticals. So he's doing pretty good.
Paw.
Yeah.
But talking to Charles Thompson, Casey Thompson, starting quarterback for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, just fired their coach Scott Frost, and now have Mickey Joseph head coaching the Cornhuskers now of Langston fame from back in the day when we called a couple of Langston games. Charles and Mickey was there. This is your second time around with this whole transfer process. First time with the NIL opportunity thrown in there. What kind of new layers does that add to this whole thing?
Well, let me back up and say this so Mickey Joseph and I met in 1988.
Okay.
Okay. He was being recruited by the University of Oklahoma.
Not the great 88 season.
Yeah, he was being recruited by the University of Oklahoma his senior year out of Louisiana, and he came on a recruiting visit, and Jamel and I showed him around.
Yeah.
And so we met then. I never forget Mickey leaving there after he got done watching film. He goes, "Wait a minute. They didn't tell me about you here." So he obviously chose to go to Nebraska. We stayed in contact. As you mentioned, he's been here at Langston, and he spent some time at UCO as well, too. But we've stayed in contact, good friends. And so, Ivory, just so you know, he's the reason we're at Nebraska.
Really?
Yeah, he was the reason that he called me up and said, "Look, man, I'm making the transition from LSU to Nebraska. We'd like to take a look at us." And I thought, I didn't think about Nebraska at the time, and I thought, got to research him a little bit, got to talking to Mickey a little bit more. Long story short, their new OC they were bringing in, Mark Whipple, he, of course, had a phenomenal year with Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh.
All right.
And then I happened to know some guys, as you know, I go around the country doing camps. I happen to know 2 buddies of mine who had played. One had played for him and one against Mark Whipple. They knew him really well, and was able to speak very highly of him. And so I got intrigued by him, his offense. He used to coach. He coached Ben Roethlisberger when they won the Super Bowl at Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
So he had some NFL pedigree, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. It was a fan base. I know growing up, they loved Nebraska football in Lincoln. And quite honest with you, it was when you look at it, it was a better situation. And people will say this kind of crazy, but in the business of football, going to Lincoln was and possibly getting them to win more than 3 games seemed more logical, more of a pat on the back situation than maybe following another program like in Oklahoma when they were possibly looking at a down year and being the blame.
Was there any kind of whispers in the air about Scott Frost?
Well, no, I kind of already knew. Like, listen, they made him change his whole offensive staff. The whole offensive side of the ball was new. That's why he was bringing Mark Whipple in. That's why Mickey Joseph was there. They named Mickey Joseph the associate head coach going in. So, I kind of felt all along that there was a possibility that if something happened during the course of this year, that this offensive staff would stay together. Mickey being named the associate head coach, he would, for on a very short term, be the interim head coach. And if you look at all of Nebraska's key transfers on the offensive side of the ball, and even some on the defensive side of the ball, most of them are connected to Mickey Joseph and his recruiting. So we felt really good about that. I happen to like Scott Frost too, Ivy as a person. I just think that some of the processes and the procedures that he had in place wasn't conducive to creating a winning football type of program that Nebraska probably needed.
Well, we'll come back to that NIL. Let me ask this question then. And we're going to go right back to your alma mater. And you said you're screaming at your TV every Sunday. You're probably really screaming at your TV every Saturday. What's the damn deal? I feel like Venables, you're not coming to a new place. You know this place. although it was a different regime, different era, different coaching staff. And let's be honest, it's been about 2 generations worth of players that you've kind of been through since that time as a defensive coordinator at OU. So players have changed. The game has changed a little bit, but you're not at a brand new place. You're back to familiar confines. What's the deal?
Well, it's simple. I mean, it's really football 101. And I think people, this goes back to a little bit when I said a statement earlier, people expect water to always be wine, even though you put it in a wine bottle. Still could be water. And the realistic point of view of that is what I'm saying is, Ivory, Perrion Winfrey's defensive tackle, drafted in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Thomas, defensive tackle, drafted in the NFL. Nick Bonito, defensive outside linebacker, defensive end, drafted in the NFL. Asamoah, the inside linebacker, drafted in the NFL. There's 4 guys in their interior front 7 that's no longer there that are NFL talent. You had your safety, I can't even remember his name, drafted in the NFL. There's 5 guys on that defense that are NFL caliber players that you got to replace. Then you also lost Patrick Fields, who went to another school, but he had started in over 40 games. So you got 6 key guys on a defense. And listen, if for a scheme to work sometimes, you got to have disruptive guys on the defensive front. When any defense, especially Oklahoma, has been effective, that's when they've had those big dogs up front. And you look at what Venable was doing at Clemson, it wasn't really until he got those big SEC caliber type of guys that he was able to really put his defensive scheme in full effect. He doesn't have that here down. And I know people don't want to look at that, and I'm not buying him or giving him an excuse, but that's just the reality of what it is. He's got a lot of young guys. I think the only veteran guy that he has there that didn't even play the whole last year was a kid from Midwest City. Can't think of his name. 31.
Oh, Jalen Redmond.
Exactly. So he didn't even play the whole last year.
Yeah.
So you had to recoup that. I think I could compare it. You look over Nebraska. Nebraska had a great defense last year. Held everybody under 30 points a game. If they'd have done that now, they'd be winning. But if you look at it, they had 3 guys that left that got 2 of them were defensive linemen and 1 linebacker. It does make a difference when you lose those caliber type of talent. So defensively, I still think Brent will get it corrected once you allow him time to get his guys in. Listen, another thing I'll point out, on the offensive side of the ball, we lose our first and second string quarterback. And I know people will say, well, Dylan Gabriel come in, and I'm not knocking Dylan Gabriel. But I don't think he's Spencer Rattler, and I certainly don't think he's Caleb Williams, in my opinion. I think he's a solid quarterback.
He's not Spencer Rattler?
No.
Okay.
No. I think what Spencer Rattler, from a skill standpoint, has all the tools. What he may be lacking is upstairs. But from a skill standpoint, he's a pure thrower.
He's there?
Yeah, he's there.
Whatever you say. Whatever you
I think
say.
Dylan Gabriel is very effective in the offense that they're running, which is why, and I'm going to even get deep because what the name of the show is what?
Whatever you say.
Whatever I say. I'm going to tell you. I think the mistake was made, and I'll get in that just a minute. Let me get back to this. So I think from an offense standpoint, they lose both to first and second team quarterback. They lose some key receivers. Mario Williams gone as well. You bring in a whole new offensive staff to where now the whole team has to learn a new system. Now, in comparison to this, Ivory, think about this for a minute. They was ready to run Steve Sarkisian out of town last year at Texas. I was there. It was 5-7. Okay? People talked about him. He ain't no quarterback. He ain't this and that. Year 2 in his system.
No problem.
Well, here's why. Football 101. People, you don't have to now coach the whole team on your scheme. You got 95% or 90% of your team that already knows your system. Now you get into a process now where you're only teaching newcomers. It's easier to fill in the blanks as to put the whole puzzle together. And I think that's why you go back and look at the history of most of good college coaches, you know by the year 2 if they're on the right track or not. You look at Saban. You look at Urban Meyer. You look at, all these people who have been successful. It's been year 2. Go back to Bob Stoops. First year, 6-6. He takes over. The next year, they win the national championship. So it's year 2 that I think you can start really questioning and evaluating this whole regime.
Tell me this. You've been in the locker room at a big-time level. You're an OU player. You're kicking up dust. You're doing your thing. You think this is your year to come up you're a junior. This is your year to really bust out and have a hell of a year. But here come these Clemson guys in the locker room.
But not 40% of the players came from Clemson.
No, not 40%. I think 40%
Are new.
Right?
From
40%,
wherever.
and from wherever, and a lot of these guys came from Clemson. What 33% scholarship players? I think on top of just regular football 101, I need to learn this system. But now just the vibe in the locker room.
Yeah, they put
This
your big boy,
new guy at a Clemson
put your
got,
big boy britches on and
took
go
my
compete.
scholarship.
And go compete.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the nature of what it is. With the transfer portal now, you better wake up. We're in this era right now.
It's the escalating door every
Yeah, it's
year,
going to be
man.
in this era. And, Ivy, a lot of people talk about the transfer portal. The transfer portal is not bad, folks. Let's just get that straight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a benefit to the college athlete. It gives them an advantage over the college team or the college school. Now, people don't like that because, Ivy, if I'm at Oklahoma and I'm an Oklahoma fan, I only want my guys to stay at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to have an option to go in a portal and now be treated like a free agent. So the transfer portal allows them an opportunity to stay where they're at and put feelers out. You can go in the transfer portal and come out.
Sure.
My son did it at Texas.
Sure.
Now, but what it does do, it allows people to kind of say, let me hear what you got to offer. Bidder number 1, bidder number 2, bidder number 3, number 4. So the things didn't change, Ivory, until the one-time transfer pool in effect. That's when it became an all-out melee. And what we'll cover later, that's really when the NIL kicked. You put all those three things together, now you got what you got now.
All right, CT, you took me right there, right to the NIL, man. Let's jump right into it. Like I said, your second time going through this transfer process with your sons. First time with the NIL. Is it really like that? Just, what do you give me? Bidder number 1, bidder number 2, bidder number 3? They're offering more. Now you're done. Is that really how it goes?
Let me. The best way I can answer that, yes, for the most part.
Where's your baseline number? What do you start
It wasn't
at?
really. So we were different. Honestly,
Okay.
We were about the business of football. We were looking for the best spot for Casey to showcase his talents, to get him in a position to be able to project forward. So it was more or less that first. So that was the cake for us. The NIL was the icing. Some people are the other way around. They want the NIL and they don't care about the other stuff. We were different than that. So we had to, I looked at it from a business standpoint. Now, so look at Nebraska for a minute. Let's just take a glimpse back at what we saw.
Uh-huh.
We saw a team last year that lost 6 games by less than 1 touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We thought that their defense would be still intact. Where they missed out on winning a lot of those 3-point games, they lost a 3-point to Michigan. They had the game won, Ivory. The quarterback fumbled in the last minute and a half. Michigan kicks the field goal and beats them by 3.
Right.
There's tons of games like that where I think Martinez is flourishing at Kansas State, but in Nebraska, he just had a lot of blunders down the stretch, and we felt like the offensive production wasn't there. They're now bringing in a new pro style of offense, so now Scott Frost is not there. They're not going to be heavy run quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. So that became a more of a factor of we thought it was a good fit along with that. But give you an example. I was on my couch one afternoon. I get a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
It's a friend here that owns some car lots in the Oklahoma area. He calls me and says, hey, Missouri, you heard from Missouri? And I said, no, I don't believe we heard from Missouri. He goes, they're going to be calling. I said, how do you know? He said, well, they're trying to put the NIL package together for you. They called me to see if I would be – I know one of the coaches on the staff. They called to see if I'd be interested to throw in a few cars for you and his mother.
So this is somebody from Missouri calling a friend of yours because they know
A friend of his
because they know Casey's he's transferring and they want him up there.
He's in the portal now.
He's in the
this
portal
time.
and they want him up there.
Yeah, that's the kind of calls you start.
So they do their work and their
Yes, and then they come to offer you a package.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so here's what they can do for you. Here's what we got for you. There's certain trips that we went on, that Casey went on that, I mean, just like you got your paper in front of you, they let out their NIL projection for him.
Really?
And listen, he got treated, the first year at Texas, Casey got into a little bit of a jiff. and when he left Texas, and he said that they're paying him more in Nebraska than he got at Texas, which was a true statement.
Really?
The first year, remember, NIL was first year, so really he and Bijan Robinson were really the only two kind of getting in the. And I'll give you a weird connection to that. They wasn't getting it from Texas. They had signed with Athletes First, which is the number one NFL agent firm in the country. In fact, David Mukalali, which is Deshaun Watson's agent, is Casey's NIL agent.
Wow.
So that's why I know. I mean, a lot of this stuff.
Wow.
But so they worked magic with Ford and got him some NIL. I mean, and I'm not making light of it, but it is in his first year at Texas, he probably made six figures.
Ooh-wee.
You know,
and
then at
then-
Nebraska, he's making more than that. He's making more than what he made at Texas.
More than six figures.
More than what he made in Texas.
Okay, yeah. It can still be six
No,
figures.
it ain't seven figures.
I feel you. But damn, okay, so, I mean, do you throw that number out there? Or do they throw that number out there and say, hey?
No, here's what we never threw a number out at all, ever.
Really?
No, I never threw a number out at all. We always just took what do you got? What do you offer? What do you guys got? I mean, we never went there and said, what are you offering?
Right.
But everyone understands the nature of the industry that we're in now.
You want them for a reason.
So
You gotta give up something.
when you bring in a guy there this past year, everyone kind of knew had to be a perk. There had to be just like it used to be a part of the here's our offense, here's the system we're gonna run.
Yeah.
Here's what we can do for you from the NIL perspective as well too.
Wow.
So that played a part into it. So it's not like we went in asking for anything. Most of them had it as part of their presentation.
Does he have to hold up his end?
There's some things. Some of it
he
is.
has to do, and
some of the things he has
put
to
a
do.
little video out for
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So like Nebraska was really the first school, Ivory, that had a collective together as a school. Like what OU and some of the others are trying to do now.
They already had a little agency put together.
They already had it together. They did it.
Right.
When they caught wind of NIL coming the year before, they started that a year earlier than everyone else.
Yeah.
So when it came down to this past year when it went in effect, Nebraska already had theirs in place. They'd already had 4 or 5 million raised in collective NIL collective deals. So what they did, even Adrian Martinez last year, they slotted it based on position. So we knew going in, just because what Adrian got, quarterback was going to get this amount of money anyway.
Ah, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
So
That's his base. They don't have nothing to do with any. This is coming from our collective deal.
Right.
You
right.
still can have your own.
So, okay, yeah, and I was going to ask that. So players can still go out and shop for their own
It,
stuff.
it depends on how
They
your
want.
agreement is with on both
With the
sides.
school.
So
Okay.
we made it to where it was that open that way. So he has a collective deal that he has certain things he has to do for his NIL through Nebraska. Then he still has his relationship with Athletes First, which is his NIL agent.
Charles, listen, you're a guy who's all about the grind. And, you're talking about pressure makes diamonds. It also busts pipes, but, you're going to get kids ready for that smoke. You're going to get them ready for the real world. It's your son, your kid, so it's a little different. But what can that do for some kids getting that type of access that early?
Well, you got to remember, my son's 23 years old.
Yeah.
He's not an 18-year-old kid at this point. He's been in the college game. I don't want to say this because he's my son, but the reality of it is, man, Casey's treating it already like he's a professional athlete. He doesn't party, he doesn't drink, he's not into the nightlife.
Mm-hmm.
It's football or bust for him. So he's a graduate student. So he spends most of his time up studying and breaking down film up at the complex.
He's already in career mode.
He's already in career mode. When you see him on the off season, he takes a group. He did it last year at Texas. He took Xavier Worthy and a bunch of them guys down to Florida and worked out at House of Athletes with Brandon Marshall's place. That's what he's about. He's doing those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's his focus. When Steve Sarkisian first took the job in his apartment in Austin, he invited he called the athletic director. I know this to be a fact because he's with me in Phoenix, Arizona. We're at a camp. When they fired Herman and announced Steve Sarkisian, he's in the room with me. We're doing a quarterback camp. He got on the phone and immediately called the athletic director and said, "Can you give me Steve Sarkisian's number?" He called Steve Sarkisian and wanted his playbook immediately.
Damn.
So when he got back to Austin, before Steve Sarkisian got to Austin, Casey was already holding meetings at his apartment, teaching the other players, and they were going over the playbook.
Sarkisian's book.
Sarkisian's book. That's just
Nice,
what
man.
he's about. When we were on the plane, the year that he remember the year they played Colorado? They played in the Alamo Bowl
At Texas.
before, and he threw those 4 touchdowns in the Colorado, that bowl game. We get on the plane going to Arizona at that same time, and he's on the plane right after that bowl game with me watching film of Oklahoma for the next year.
Yeah.
So when he played in the game against Oklahoma, he'd been studied in for a year and a half.
So he ready, huh?
Okay, if you don't got to get ready if you stay ready.
Did he know a new coach in Venables and all that was coming in and all that? How does that shake up his preparation now?
Well, but that was the year before. Lincoln Riley was still there.
Okay, he was still there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was the year that he played last year, not this previous year. Yeah, and listen, believe it or not, I mean, BV almost got him to Oklahoma this year.
Really?
Yeah, it was that close.
BV talking about Brian Van.
No, Brent
Whatever you
Venables.
say.
Brent Venables.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of another one.
no.
Brent Venables really got him to come back.
You're very close. We I've got a fairly good relationship with Brent, and it's ironic. So we're gonna go deep on this deal, okay? So we get the call. First of all, Spencer, Caleb, Casey, and a lot of the quarterbacks, just so people know, that are now in this, they have a network. They talk to each other.
Okay.
So while all this stuff is going on, there's a network of quarterbacks communicate with each other, seeing where everybody's going, and just talking to different things and everything. So we knew that, number one, Spencer was leaving, and believe it or not, Caleb Williams really wanted to stay.
Okay.
When they hired Jeff Lebby, there was some issue that went on when they hired Lebby, and there was some miscommunication along the way. So when everyone – you remember this, Ivory, after the bowl game when Caleb Williams got on the podium and said he's made this statement, we'll see how Oklahoma does. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
You thought he was talking about what? NIL money, didn't you?
Uh-huh.
He wasn't talking about NIL money. He was talking about the communication, knowing what kind of offense Levy's going to have, all these sort of things that they were looking at for the future of Caleb Williams.
Huh.
And ultimately, long story short, we all see what happened. Now, let me go deep with you one more layer here. My opinion.
Real quick, OU fan base and brass didn't like that.
Like what?
Like the fact that they were thought to still have a hold of Caleb Williams, and he was just inquiring about the future, only to end up.
I think there was just a whole lot of miscommunication from what I understand. Now, obviously, I'm not in their shoes, but I'm just telling you the information I got from a very reliable source that it just was a whole lot of miscommunication that went on at the last that just, ultimately they felt more comfortable, following Lincoln as opposed to staying here.
Yeah, and I think OU's fan base, I think that was new for them. Coming out of the Bob Stoops era, where he's been there, 20 years, won a championship. They were in bowl games damn near every year. And I think for them to get his kind of quote-unquote protege, and then for him to bounce after, 5-6 years, I think OU fan base, they kind of took that as a slap on the face.
Well,
we don't get treated like that.
Because they don't understand the new business of football.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? No matter what you talk about, Ivory, money talks. Stability talks for your family. There ain't a person here that wouldn't choose some of the things, and I that's why I don't get with this large contingent of people that are linking this and that. Man, listen, Ivory?
It's USC, man.
But not only that, let me ask you a question. Say your podcast right here. Someone says, Ivory, I'm going to pay you $200,000 to come over here to do this or that. What you going to do?
I'm out.
You certainly going to,
I'm gonna give y'all one last farewell episode of whatever you say podcast.
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying
fill out
is
paperwork.
What I'm saying is you can't. So that's what you got to look at from Caleb's standpoint. They obviously, it's not like they were just slobbering at the mouth to leave. In fact, here's what I'm just going to tell you this. If you look at the dynamics of how things went down, Caleb Williams announces on Monday afternoon that he's going into portal. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Monday afternoon, he announced he's going to the portal. Okay? Do you remember when Dylan Gabriel, they announced his commitment to OU?
No, I don't.
The same day, 3 hours later. And what does that tell you?
Yeah, they knew. They knew what was ahead of time.
So what it would tell you is this. It looks from afar like, oh, you had a backup plan. They were waiting. Or is it plausible? Just going to throw something out in your head that maybe somebody pushed Caleb out to get what they wanted out of the scenario.
Yeah.
Now, let me throw something at you, Ivory. This is what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that Dylan Gabriel and Jeff Levy have been close since he's been in the 9th grade?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that Dylan Gabriel was Coach Levy's first call and not Caleb Williams? You didn't know that. You didn't know that Dylan Gabriel
the details
chose UCLA because Jeff Levy helped him get there.
Okay.
So now, let me flip the coin for you. I get a call on Saturday. Actually, Thursday of the week before.
Uh-huh.
You remember old coach at OSU, Fedora?
Yeah, sure.
Connected all over. He calls me, and he tells me something's going on with the Gabriel kid. Chip
Okay.
Kelly calls him and saying he's all of a sudden not showing up for stuff. Now, just so you know, Ivory, if Caleb Williams waits 24 hours,
He's not showing. He was talking about stuff for in UCLA.
yes,
Okay.
that's where he's already at there.
Okay.
He's supposed to start school on that Monday. He had a class at 10 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
If he shows up for class, he's stuck at UCLA.
Ah.
So he didn't show up for class.
Yeah.
And 4 hours later, he's committing to OU.
Yeah.
And by the way, they already had the committal artwork done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you think?
Got the graphics team on that early, huh?
Now, let me go a step further than that. You want me to get it even deeper?
Let's get deep, man.
So we get the call Monday, once Caleb goes in the portal. I get the call from the BV them side and Caleb got him guy.
Okay.
We're really interested in Casey. Now that Caleb's gone, we're really forward. He's going to be one of our. Jeff Levy's heading it up, but BV wanted to make sure we reach out to you. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Get a hold of Levy. So Levy calls my son and talks to him. I'm supposed to talk to Levy Tuesday night. Don't hear from him.
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to talk to him Wednesday. Don't hear from him. I'm at the airport flying out, Ivory, and guess who I bumped into?
Oh, really? Flying out of where? Where you?
I'm going to San Antonio for the Army All-American Combine and Game.
Okay.
They're headed somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
I bump into Brent Venables. So VV corners me,
Yeah.
tells me, hey, we got, you guys can't, I know y'all had a great Nebraska visit, but before y'all commit, we want to, blah, blah, blah. I said, VV, I will get, man, listen, it would be nothing more for me
Yeah.
for my son to be in Norman at OU. That's where I played.
Right.
That's where my heart is. You know what I'm saying? But you need to talk to Levy. Because, see, at that time, I already knew Levy pretty much told Casey, Dylan going to get first shot.
That's what he told him?
Pretty much. So now, Ivory, you going to transfer to Texas to come go to deal with that?
Yeah, right.
When you find out how this is his boy?
Right.
Nah, we're going to pass.
Right.
So now, everybody wonders. Think about it. Now, I've talked to 2 other people that were recruited by OU at quarterback position, and all 3 stories are the same. So now, everybody wonders why you left with a bevel and the quarterback room so shallow. Sometimes you get what you want.
Hey, that's what you wanted. That's what you wanted. Hey, I should stand up and give you a round of applause there, CT. Give me that inside information.
I'm giving
man.
it to you and your listeners, man. You know me, Ivory. You've been around me. I don't never pull no punches.
Hey, no need for no big tongues around here, man. No doubt about it.
They get mad at me, but they what they can't do is say it ain't true.
That's what I was going to say, man. I mean, you, Kendall, your first son was up there, made his way to OU, transferred to Utah. Casey, Texas, now transferred. Do you have any? I know the fan base loves you, but any backlash from like really not trying to push your sons to really come through OU and?
You know, Ivory, you remember, you don't remember this. You remember when Kendall was at Oklahoma.
I do.
wasn't really a great experience for our family.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things, whatever, but it was just this pressure walk around, and you know, it's like, well, they're not treating him fair, they're not doing this and that, and all that sort of pressure falling. So, man, with Casey, I just decided I'm gonna let him do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
You know, do what's best for him, and just take colors out of the deal. Don't worry about if it's burnt orange, you know. OSU originally, OSU was ahead of Oklahoma.
Come on now, quit playing.
I mean, in the whole scheme of things.
Do you think that kind of, I mean, I guess it's obvious. Do you think Casey kind of looks at Kendall's situation, and you think that kind of turns him off a little bit?
No, I don't think any of that. He was very close to the Stoops brothers, very close to Bob Stoops, very close to Mike Stoops. Venables, the son of him, did when Kemp's kid. No, that really wasn't it. It was the fact, at the time he came out, he wanted to play for an offensive-minded head coach. At the time, if you remember, in the midst of his recruiting, Lincoln wasn't the head coach yet. So he asked Lincoln, I found this out. He went up and visited Lincoln after he was committed to Texas. And they had a meeting at night, which I didn't know about. And he asked Lincoln, I give Lincoln this credit. He asked Lincoln one question. And he said, well, if I flip my commitment from Texas to Oklahoma, will you commit to being here for at least 3 years of my career here? Mm-hmm. And Lincoln was honest and said, I don't know that I could guarantee that, because I want to be a head coach.
Yeah.
Now, a year, I think like several months later or whatever, he ended up being the head coach at Oklahoma. But at that time, we was kind of already entrenched with the Texas thing, and we decided that was a good fit, because at the time they only had 2 scholarship quarterbacks on campus. And one, Sam Ellinger, hadn't really proven himself as of yet.
Did that bother you as a parent, that having nightly meetings or nighttime meetings with your son that you didn't know about?
No, I mean, Casey, you know, I sent Casey went and met Nick Saban by himself. You know, I put him on. I mean, Casey's been a little bit more independent.
So he's been in the system for a while. Like,
yeah, he could go. I mean, I've seen him with friends of mine. No, I mean, so he was. I took him a little different route than I did with Kendall. I was not as hands on. I pretty much allowed him to create his own list of recruits and schools that he was interested in, and at the end of the day, it was going to be his decision, and we're going to support it either way.
Talked about Brent Venables and you know, bringing some players and maybe a couple guys from the coaching staff. I also saw him giving an interview, and he was talking about just some of the ancillary non-football things. Talked about culture, dressing the right way on game days.
It's big.
Singing the school song after a game, win or lose, keeping the locker room clean. I'm wondering, is this are these new elements to the culture that maybe Lincoln Riley didn't prioritize, like Brent Venables is doing, and how much of that you think has to do with maybe some of the up and down play that we're seeing right now from OU?
I don't think the up and down plays correlates in essence in this situation directly to that. Mm-hmm. I do think culture is very key when coaches talk about that.
Was that similar to Lincoln's?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen. I was taking kids down there to tour the facility. They've always kept clean. I mean, locker rooms are locker rooms. I mean, they don't. None of it looks like I had.
I don't think Lincoln Riley made his guys wear shooting ties and stuff on game day. I remember seeing
everybody's a little
sweatsuits.
different than that. I mean, I agree with that. But that's how Clemson was. You know,
Right.
Dabo. You know, one of the things that my son, I did learn about this when Casey was being recruited, because he was recruited by Clemson, and he was mostly impressed with Dabo Swinney's his way of doing things, his procedures, and
He's a button-up guy.
yeah, I mean, he was
Whatever
very,
you say,
and so
whatever you say.
you know, when you've been a coach under different types of systems, you take a little bit of bits and pieces from all of them, and I think that's one of the things that Brent took from Dabo's system.
I think Lincoln was kind of a more laid-back guy.
I think there was probably a little bit more laid back,
Brent Venables seems a little more intense.
more intense. Listen, I remember a story Kendall told me one time. We were on the scout team when BV was a DC at Oklahoma, and he was supposed to throw a ball to this particular person, and that's what I had on the card. And Kendall said he wasn't open.
Yeah.
So I made a play and did something else.
Uh-huh.
He said Brent Venables ran up to him, and he goes, I don't even know what he said, but when I got done, I had to take a towel and wipe off my face guard, my screen, because he was spitting so hard and
Spitting all over the place.
Yeah, he said, and he kicked him out. He kicked him out of off the scout team for
man.
a day. Yeah, it's like, get your butt out of here. So Kendall said, he goes, one thing about it, if them guys are soft around there, they're not going to be able to handle BB.
We'll see. Shaky start so far. We'll see what happens with this Kansas game. Kansas might whoop y'all, CT. Kansas might put hands on y'all.
Well, I think there's parity in the college football game.
Hey, I don't want to hear that, CT.
But here's the deal,
This is
Ivory.
Kansas.
What you need to worry about. There's only one thing you need to worry about.
Come on now.
You better make sure
Come on now.
that they able to, the Cowboys able to deal with it. Because don't count it as, don't think we know easy win just because we've been losing now. That's one thing you gonna get wrong for sure. We're not an easy win.
Well,
we ain't a walkover.
Well, let's talk about the brass of the Big 12 right now.
Okay.
The old State Cowboys. Now I saw Gundy.
And I like Gundy, by the way.
I mean, really, how can you not?
Yeah, I like Gundy.
You know what I mean? Regardless of.
Do you think you'll ever leave Oak State?
I saw him on TV the other day, and he was talking about that. How he's just a part of the community. He's gone here. He loves it here, and they were talking about that right there.
I wouldn't.
But here's my question. Okay, you wouldn't, and maybe this is a roundabout way of making sure you don't go anywhere. In the presser, he does pressers on Monday, right? He brought up the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that he went to a few interviews with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers about, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, something like that.
That's about getting more money, man.
That's what I was thinking. I'm
Yeah, they
like,
do it
here
all
we
the time.
are, and he does this almost every few years with Tennessee and little teams that flirt with him out there. Is that all that is? And now that Matt Rule just got fired from Carolina, is he kind of is he trying to get more money, or is he sees a little alleyway right there?
You got to remember, all these guys do have agents now.
They do.
So it's about the business of football. So, I mean, yeah, I would put that out there. It's like this. Listen. Here's a rule, just so you know. Any interim coach that's got the interim title on it, put score anywhere you want. If they win a few games, okay, just remember this. If they win a few games, you'll hear come out that they got some other people interested in them.
How many games does Mickey Joseph need to win this year to get some real deal looks?
I mean,
are we talking head coach or just a prominent coordinator spot?
No. I think that will. I think the prominent I think it's a pretty foregone conclusion that I think if Mickey wants to stay there in any capacity, even if he's not the head coach, I think they would accept him to stay there.
Yeah.
He and Trev Alberts do have a relationship. I don't think Mickey would have came there on a one-year blunder kind of deal. Don't get me wrong. People say, well, he was probably going to get moved out of LSU, but then there's always other better situations. Why would you come to a situation where Scott may lose his job and then you're sitting there you know what I'm saying? So, no, I just – how many games that he needs to win? I mean, I would be comfortable and say 6 is the low. 7, but you got to really scratch your head. If he wins 8, which means he's got to win all the rest, pretty much.
Yeah.
Then he's a lock.
Big Ten, man, tough conference. We'll see what happens up there. How weird is Bedlam going to be this year? I mean, you don't have a quarterback. Is Dylan going to play? I don't think he's going to play, right?
I'm not sure. I don't really. I mean,
so you got the booty kid coming out.
First of all, let me say this, Ivor. You know me. I bleed crimson.
Come on, man. Well, what
But,
I mean,
but last week, man, I have not been embarrassed about an OU football game.
I was about to say, come on now, CT.
Not even about the score. I'm about the score is bad as it is. But listen, Ivory. No. It goes before the score. Like the end result. I'm watching in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. If you think starting out running the Wildcat for 40 plays will win you the football game, that's a defeatist. I have not been that embarrassed watching an OU offensive game since John Blake switched in the middle of the year. Brandon Daniels to quarterback from wide receiver, switching from wide receiver to quarterback, and went back to the option in the middle of the dang season.
Right.
Like you can't. Man, we big time school. You don't be doing stuff like that. That's junkyard dogs. I was not impressed at all.
But see, that's what I'm saying. What is that? That's not Brent Venables. He doesn't know better than that. That wouldn't in the Big 12 at OU and
Brent Venables.
Yeah, I mean this.
He paying somebody to be the offensive coordinator. That's.
But as a head coach, you don't pull this card and say, "Well, hey, what are we doing?"
You do, but you still gotta let a guy do. If you hire the guy, Ivory, and you're paying him to do his job, and this is what he's saying is the best thing's gonna help us win, then you go with it.
That was bad, man.
Oh, I just don't.
Got my man Marcus Major out there. trying to run Wildcats.
I mean, listen, you remember when we did it, the Belldozer?
Oh, man.
But it was only short yardage situational. Man, you can't do that 5-6 plays. I mean, well, here's the deal, though. It can work, Ivory, but you still have to have the element of a quarterback passing game in this day and time. You're not going to get by with running Wildcat. Even though it was working all the way down the field, it was only a matter of time. It wasn't going to produce you enough to win the game. And I think they knew that. I think they knew, obviously, Texas was a high-powered offense, and I think the game plan was to slow the game or speed the game up and not throw the ball as much, thinking that, you could stop the bleeding a little bit. Because that's the only other thing that I thought that they could have been thinking.
No, it was a bad look, man. It was a bad look. And the Longhorns, they're going to hold on to that one for a long time.
Supposed to.
They're gonna
I didn't realize in the last 16 years they've only won 5 of them.
Only 5 of them?
Yeah.
Does that?
But all the last one's all they remember.
Yeah, and does that make up for about 2 or 3 of them? 50-0?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. You were option quarterback when you played at OU. What would you do in this NFL today?
As what?
As a quarterback. As a dual threat quarterback,
Well,
what would you look
listen,
like in this NFL?
I Coach Switzer and I still talk from time to time, and we visit about that. And he always jokes, and I don't know that I disagree. If we'd have had the offense they're running down with everything so spread out and running the zone read, I'd have been a killer.
You did nice.
Oh, them creasing lanes they get? Come on, man. Think about it, Ivory. I was running the wishbone and reading three techniques and dodging point ends with 7 and 9 men in the box.
Yeah.
You give me a 6-man box?
Yeah.
Sometimes a 5-man box? I'll holler at you. Then listen, I get this question all the time, and I had a friend of mine who's coaching the college call me today. He said, Charles, I want to make sure you're option quarterback. He called me on the way over here, in fact. He said, when you're running the option, do you attack the inside or the outside shoulder? It's the inside.
Inside?
Yeah, but here's why most coaches, these new age coaches, teach the outside shoulder. Because they really want the quarterback to pitch the ball and not run. Because when you attack inside shoulder, he gives you a lane to hit inside, and when you cut inside, you got backside pursuit. Quarterback takes extra hit.
Jalen Hurts does that a lot.
Inside shoulder.
Inside, yeah.
That's how you're supposed to run it.
Yeah.
That's how you run it. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't allow the defense to be able to string the play out.
But then guys start running 4-3s, 4-4s, and they can hit that outside. What'd you run, CT?
My fastest time was a 4-3 flat.
4-3 flat?
Mm-hmm.
How big of a difference without a stopwatch? I've talked to some players, and I've heard like there's a little inside kind of game that players and coaches play with each other. How fast is that guy without a stopwatch? Is he a 4-4? Is he a 4-3, 4? How fast, how big of a difference watching a guy run a 4-2 and then watching a guy run a 4-4? Can you tell with your eyes?
Yes.
You can?
Listen, the fastest guy I seen with my own eyes ran a 4-1.
4-1?
When I tell you, it's, yeah.
And it was that much obvious than the guy who ran a 4-3?
Oh, I mean, yes. You see my face?
Yeah.
That's how you be looking like.
Yeah.
It's another gear, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you just look like, oh my God. Like,
say, when he runs by you, the wind blows a little different.
Listen, this guy his name was James Pratt, and he was in the Canadian Football League. Skinny as all outdoors. Like listen, I've been in CFL games where they've been backed off of him 15 yards and he still run by you. Now, the only difference is he was fast as all outdoors, but couldn't catch a cold. He had steel bricks for hands. And still people kept him on the team. He made it to the Raiders.
Right.
Because you can never coach speed.
Just to pull him off, just to pull the safety off a little bit this way.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, speed kills.
That's all. Speed kills. Talking to Charles Thompson right here.
In fact, it's funny, Ivory. I'll tell you this story. So now that my son's been back in Nebraska.
Uh-huh.
So I got to meet Tom Osborne for the first time in person, the OU Nebraska weekend.
First time?
First time. Well, other than playing against him.
Okay.
I did a breakfast deal with one of the Nebraska clubs, and Steve Taylor and I spoke, and we were both opposing quarterbacks in 1987, that game of Century 2. And it was kind of uplifting to hear the other side of the story. For me, it always been my greatest day as a Sooner. I went in there in Lincoln, and and shock the nation.
Uh-huh.
For him, it's a memory that he still struggles with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he actually cried on stage.
Oh, do that to the old man, CT.
No, I'm just
Come
telling
on
you,
now.
man. He did.
He cried
Yeah, it was like he was emotional. He said it's probably one of the worst losses he's ever experienced.
because they did us like that.
Yeah, I mean, but it was good though. So he and I become good friends now. We golf every time I go down to Nebraska, up to Nebraska. We've actually become good friends now, and it's just good to be around the other side of, listen, I've been blessed. When I say that, God's allowed me the chance to experience the other side of the Texas rival. I played at OU, and now he's giving me an opportunity to see the other side with Nebraska. And listen, it's been a great experience for me. I've been blessed, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to do those things.
Pretty blessed, man. I've seen a little bit of your life and got to experience a little bit of it, man. That's raised a beautiful family. Got some grandbabies out there. Got your boys following in your footsteps. I know you're a proud guy, and you hinted to it a little bit earlier, and I think I saw your post on this. But talk to me about the pride of a father when Casey told the world, no, that ain't nothing. Nobody talked to me crazy like my dad did.
Well, listen.
It sounds funny, but that's a prideful moment.
Well, and it is for me because, listen, that was my goal. My goal as a father. I stopped playing professional ball because of my oldest son, Kendall, and I felt like it was my duty as a father and my first son to come back and try to pour as much in him as I could. And I did the same thing with my other ones. I've poured so much of my energy and trying to give them the things that it takes to be successful. And I've talked about football being a very physical sport, and you got to be able to take the hard coaching, the criticism. You got to be able to listen to things that you don't want to hear. You got to be able to take critique. You got to be able to take criticism. You got to be able to take coaching, and it may come in all different types of ways. I'm more old school. I'm more get in your face, and I like to do whatever for your own good though.
Right.
When I'm done on the way home, you gonna ride with me, not your mama.
Yeah.
And in the next hour, you're gonna listen to me. When we get done though, 2 hours later, I may gonna say, hey, I'm just only trying to make you better. Probably that. And I don't think that. And so when Casey said that, it let me know that what I had tried to do was successful, man. I mean,
you're on the right board, man.
Yeah, I mean, and so it was fulfilling, to say the least.
Talk to me about, you talk about a hard-nosed coach, old school coach. We got new age kids nowadays, CT. What do you, as a coach, how do you prioritize a kid's anxiety levels, overall depression, and as it pertains to football and training them? That's a real thing we have to deal with kids nowadays. We've seen NFL players retire early because of I'm just not in the right place mentally. You saw Ben Simmons last year bypass the entire season of NBA basketball. Not in the right place mentally. I'm going through something. Have you had to deal with that as a coach? And if so, how'd you attack that?
Yes, it's real. It's valid. It's real. It's something that's to be taken serious. And I think a lot of us look at it in the case of Ben Simmons. You look at the Olympic gymnasts that went through it. It's just like any other, mental illness.
Simone Biles did. Yeah,
it's a real thing, and it's something that, you and I can sit here and critique it, and we can talk about it, and you hear people on the phone that have these different opinions, but it's just not a fair assessment of unless you're really walking and going through it. We talk about, you talk about, depression is real. It comes in all different ways. It comes from all different ways, avenues. And I've had a few kids that have had to deal with that were top-notch athletes.
What were some of the things that was affecting them? And like, I don't know, I guess it's as specific as you can get. Is it maybe I'm just lethargic. I can't just get my energy up. I can't remember. Like, what were some of the things, Coach Thompson, I'm dealing with A, B, and C?
Well, a lot of it has to do with confidence, self-awareness of self-gratification. It's like, and listen, we've seen it in people it's a thing that forms in the brain that causes people to commit suicide.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's a real thing. Like I've talked to doctors about it. It can develop, and it can also grow. You know, it's like a disease kind of a deal. And so if you're not careful about it, I mean, it's something that can happen. I think when you look at all the nature way the rules are described right now, with CTE, with the junior SEAL, you know, all those things came from that same type of deal.
Yeah.
And so on the outside, it may seem that someone's got it all together, and it's hard to know what's going on inside mentally. And so you just got to be there for people. You got to be understanding. You got to be compassionate, and you can't be as judgmental. And that's how I handle it. Like I'm not an expert. Like I don't got no doctorate on how to treat it. But all I could do was put my arm around people and brace them and just, hey, in the middle of the night, if you need to call, you need to talk, call and talk. And that's how I had to deal with it, because I don't know, I don't have any training other than that.
Now, you being
Now, listen, I went through it. I went through it.
I was going to ask that.
No,
I mean,
no,
as
I
a
went-
player.
No, I went through it when I got in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you go from being, you know, beloved around here in the state of Oklahoma, and all of a sudden you're spending 17 months in a federal prison.
Yeah.
Trust me, brother, I've been there. I mean, I know what it feels like. So I can identify. And mine was self-inflicted, don't get me wrong, but nonetheless, it was still
there.
I mean, it was still a very valid, dark time for me. And so, you know, I mean, I never thought about giving up. Not for long, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, not to take my life, but you just want
Right.
to say, the heck with all of it.
Enough is enough.
Yeah, just like whatever it's going to be, what it's going to be, and you just, you know, you're up in the middle of the night, you're thinking like, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to get by this? You know, what's my life going to be? Am I going to be a failure my whole life? And all of a sudden you get in that cycle, and all of a sudden you're just going crazy, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
How do you, as that old school coach, kind of, you know, you're a hard nosed old school coach. How do you kind of, you got to kind of know what kids I can go after like that?
well, that's in all things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
you hear
true.
Coach talk about that, like how you can approach, like Coach's coach talked about it. He could get after Casey like that, but he couldn't get after the second or third string quarterback
True,
like that. He
true.
knew you got to kind of know what you can take. But you got to remember this, Ivory. There was two facets of dealing with stuff, and I categorize them in different areas. There's the football mentality on the field and between the stripes. There ain't no other way to cookie cut this deal right here.
Right.
Between these stripes, this is what it's got to be. And if you can't deal with it, you need to go sit over here. Now, over here, outside the lines, now I'm going to deal with you to a different deal.
Right.
But if you're going to be inside these lines, bruh, I know what it takes. You got to deal with it. If you ain't ready for this, you need to go over there.
Yeah.
And I'll get to you in a minute, but I need guys in this square that's ready to get down with it.
Do you see any of your sons moving on to the training, the coaching?
I think Kendall does it a little bit. I think Casey could be a coach someday. I think I can see it in his future. He does it, you know, he does it a lot with me. Like he's helped me be a part of my 7-on-7. Heck, they about fired me last year. hadn't won a
Who
tournament.
fired you?
My team almost fired me.
Your team almost
Casey
fired you?
came down for a weekend and we had a tournament and we hadn't been winning. We had a pretty good team and we kind of fell short in our first couple of events. He comes down and orchestrates us to our first tournament win.
They
And
say,
they start looking at me like, hold on, coach.
we don't need pops over
Well,
here.
but it's what I told him.
Yeah.
I said, but it's his playbook that we're running.
Right.
He knows it better than me.
Right.
You know. So,
What's are you guys like the I'm likening you guys to the three Manning boys.
Little bit.
You got two quarterbacks
we talk
And-
constantly.
and your youngest one's a receiver.
Yeah.
How's that work? You got the young one ready to.
Yeah.
Usually the youngest one always comes out. He's kind of like the monster.
Oh yeah.
The young, you know what I'm saying?
He's a handful.
Bryce might be a little harder than Bronny.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, he's
Charles O'Bannon was better than Ed to me.
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean?
My youngest one's usually, I mean, he was a more tougher, thicker built, gritter. Even today, even outside of football, he's the one that's probably more like me than any of them.
Okay.
My other two's more like their mother. But no, listen, Kendall and I and Casey and I mean, Myrie, listen, we watch film together all the time. We break down and talk about it. So we do a lot of interaction throughout the season. It's good for us.
We'll see what happens. And what's the young receiver? What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go?
Well, he's not going. He's giving up football.
Really?
He's more a comedian and actor type. He's appeared in some extras in a couple movies and stuff.
See, that's the Charles Thompson part of it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm getting it now.
Yeah, he wants to be public speaker.
I'm getting it now.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know. Y'all know Charles Thompson as an option quarterback. This dude's an entertainer over here. He's
so that's what he's into. He's more that side of me.
Yeah, that's good.
He's always been a class clown. He's got a sense of humor.
Hey,
he's moody. Either in or he ain't. It's like
I can get with it, man. No doubt. I can get with it, man. CT, back to NFL. You've coached, trainer, raised up kids, raised up players. What are you doing with Deshaun Watson? You bringing him in your locker room? I know you're a quarterback now, but just talk to me straight. Now.
It's kind of, so, man, I feel like I'm a little biased answering this.
Yeah, you are. I know.
Because not the quarterback side of me. Because I think people, even if you say that he's 100% wrong,
mm-hmm.
I'm a guy who's given a second chance. So, yeah, I probably am.
Yeah.
If other things check out, if I feel like that he, passes all the other criteria. Now let me kind of side note this a little bit without defending him. So because of my son's agent and them sharing,
mm-hmm.
I caught wind of a lot of stuff behind the scenes that a lot of people didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that it was made to look somewhat worse than what it actually was.
Mm-hmm.
And not by any means am I condoning anything that went on because I wasn't actually there.
Right.
But I don't know that he's just totally a bad character, bad guy. You hear a lot of great things about him. It just wasn't a fit at Houston. You could ask maybe if you ask Steve Sarkisian about my son Casey, like he might say something negative about him.
It ain't gonna be that though. Charles.
No. By no means.
It ain't gonna be no crazy like that.
No. But I'm just saying. But I'm saying, Ivy. Like I just feel like that you can always find certain things. You can always find certain things to point a negative at people.
Put like this: we brought up Kyler Murray earlier, right? About how Arizona wanted him to study a certain amount of hours throughout the week. What kind of that's a no do you put in a guy like Deshaun Watson's contract going forward?
Well, no, I think there's got to be all.
I can't say don't go to the club, but can I say, hey man, only 2 masseuses for you?
Well, no, I think now they put in established where all of his masseuses have to go through the team. Like he can't set up masseuses, private masseuses
Your own
anymore.
masseuses, right?
Yeah, so that's
right.
already put. The NFL mandated that. So, and listen, let's just assume that he has a sickness. It's like you deal with it accordingly, and you monitor it, and But I don't know, Ivory. You got to understand something. I don't want to point, but I've been around a lot of situations where I know where people have tried to squeeze money out of people by things they may say about them and what they want to get out, and it's just I just think it is particularly interesting to me that a grand jury, which I don't think people understand what that means.
2 grand juries.
Okay, but a grand jury, and what I mean by that is it's not like his lawyers was in there countering the argument.
Yeah.
A grand jury is only for the prosecution, and they submitted 100% of their case, and a grand jury, too, neglected to bring criminal charges against him. To me, that says something.
Can I push back and say it was in Texas, and you're talking about sending one of their beloved quarterbacks to jail? The state of Texas doesn't get out like that. Can I push back? You get what I'm saying?
Can I push back
Uh-huh.
and say that, honestly, Texas, in dealing with racial situations, ain't been more favorable.
True.
And you're still talking about a black quarterback.
Yeah.
And you're still talking about people of the normalcy of their communities. And I get it.
Football's a religion down there.
I get it.
I get your side too. No doubt.
But I'm saying what I'm saying is, Ivory, the criminal legal systems that we have in place, regardless of whether it was you or me,
don't do us no favors.
But I'm saying the grand jury
neglected
to come back with charges.
Twice.
I mean that.
So
Listen,
I get you.
So a person, just trust me. I'm not proud of it. I've been through the legal system. I know what that means.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think other people don't realize that. Like it means that they didn't feel like there was a sufficient enough evidence to bring criminal charges against him. And so now here we have that. And civil people say, well, he played civilly. Well, sometimes it's better to pay than to fight. So if it's going to cost me $400,000 to fight you, and I still might lose, or I can give up $250.
Give it and get rid of it.
So I don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying, Ivy? So, like, once again, I'm not trying to defend it, but I'm saying let's just don't assume that we know the whole story when we really don't. I told you some stuff today about the OU and Caleb Williams deal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I wish I'd be the fly on the wall when the phone calls you finna get after this airs.
It doesn't matter. Trust me, Ivy, you've been on radio with me before. Have I been afraid to say what I need to say?
Nah, my man gives no flips.
I mean,
no flips. Real quick on the flip side of it, you're not a coach, but like I say, you raise up young men, you train, you teach, and you have a son in this whole NIL process. When are we going to get to the point to where coaches aren't slinging mud at each other for quote unquote paying for players?
But they're all doing it.
Right. That's
and
what
the
I'm
thing
saying.
about it is, the people that are complaining most are the people that have done it and gotten away with it behind the scenes. And so now they're mad because it's open game now, and now everybody's on the equal playing field.
Saban was throwing mud at Jimbo and Dion, during the offseason.
Right.
They bought every player. They bought their players. Well, listen, man, it's the way of the world. Even before this NIL stuff got started, underground players were getting paid. We know that.
I would like to see, which I know, listen, Dion's been great for the HBCU, Jackson State. But, man, if I had another kid, he'd go play for Dion.
When's Dion coming to the big boys?
If somebody don't grab him up, they're stupid. Like, he could take, with the right people behind him, the right power, money, the program, boy, he go. Because, listen, the dude knows football. He got no people around no football. Like, it ain't.
You better put that foot back there, dog.
But listen, and you know what I love about him? He stays prime all the time. Like
all the time.
Yeah.
I love the D-boy chain he has on.
I just like the way. Give me my theme music, dun, dun, dun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a prime guy. I listen.
I know. I remember. He's come down.
Yeah,
here.
we played against him. Yeah,
you guys played against each other.
But he's just, man. He's. But listen, Ivy, he's always been a real cat, man. He's just,
No, he's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
man,
he is. I like
in this whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, no disrespect, but football is ran by, billionaire bigots. For the most part, and to see Dion come down here and with all that swag, going through all the issues they're going through, can't even get no fresh water down there in Jackson.
Listen, man,
and this is how doing their thing.
This is how deep someone said Dion has been to HBCU. I was watching on ESPN. They had a Jackson State softball game on TV. No, think about that. Come on, bro.
Softball.
He done been so much to Jackson State.
Let the ladies get.
They putting the softball on ESPN now.
No, that's big, man.
Yeah.
That's big. And just imagine if there were 3 more Dions in the HBCU ranks.
Well, and that's why it's a little bit I'm torn because I think he's been good for that, but I also think that it would be great to see him go up and do it on another level with the big boys because right now there's just a lot of credit be given to some people that I don't think that I mean it's like, listen, I don't get me wrong. I think a lot of those guys you hear like people touting the Kansas coach, which is doing a great job. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's not. I don't think Dion couldn't do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now he's gonna go get ready to make a few more million. Why the Prime can't do that? And so it starts opening the door up for other people. Is what I'm saying.
Well, I think Charles, people like you play a big role in that. I think. I don't know. I mean, it's the business of football, like you've said many a times. So it's going to take it a while for it to really turn over, but people like you need to start promoting and telling kids to go to HBCUs, telling their parents.
Well, I think the problem with that is, though, Irie, it's tougher, especially now, when you're a kid. And I think, once again, you talked about the NIL stuff. No, everybody at
Yeah.
HBCU ain't getting the NIL
Right.
opportunities that Dion is bringing
Right,
forth
right,
to
right.
there. So when you telling a kid who's a top tier kid
Yeah.
to go over here, and you might be riding buses to places,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, to your game, and although you may be playing in some big time games, and the halftime show is gonna be fire.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the girl's gonna be shaking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you can go over here and obviously get NIL. You get your hotel, your rooms, your apartment paid for. You get a car.
Yeah.
All this sort of. Come on, man.
It's tough. Yeah.
It's gonna be tough.
It's rough to make that decision.
Heck, the OSSA just cleared for Oklahoma high school kids.
High school kids. I'm glad you brought that up. Listen, I was a guy beating on the desk for college players to get paid. Now, I thought they would have some kind of, system in place to where we could all understand it. It's kind of a free will, whatever going on right now. So it's kind of confusing. Isn't that inevitable for the same thing to happen in high school?
Yes, I mean it's good. I mean,
Right.
it's already happening. In fact, I'm
I'm talking about the confusion and the whole. What are the rules? What can we do? What can't we do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly the parameters of it now. I just heard it as of last week myself.
Yeah, on the news.
Yeah. In fact, I'm on the verge of possibly getting a couple kids their first NIL deals here in Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a great thing for college ball. What are some of the pluses and minuses of high school?
I mean, one of the good things about it is that high school kids will be monitored more because they're at home with their parents.
Right.
So they can't get too crazy. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so,
Mom
yeah.
and daddy might be taking more of the stuff than the kid, but
Yeah.
so I mean, at least you got some in-home monitoring and supervision over it. So that's one of the things that maybe. But at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to the foundation of how you was brought up, making right and wrong decisions with everything that you get.
Yeah. Draymond Green almost knocked out Jordan Poole as a coach. You suspending him, you fining him.
Both.
I think it's going to be, and you shouldn't be surprised if there may be issue or maybe some little strife between those two for the rest of the
Here's
season.
my prediction. It wouldn't surprise me at some point.
Mhm.
I'm fining him and suspending him for sure. And then don't be surprised. Remember I said it on this show. If Draymond Green is traded out of the Warriors at some point this year.
Here's the issue. Well, not an issue, but you're right. He's up. This is last year of his contract. And the issue with Draymond Green, he seems to be a bit of a bully, seems to be a bit of a hothead. But it seems like when you're about to get your money is when he want to flash on you. And I don't know if his plan is to test you or if his plan is to run you out of here, because if they got to pay you, that's less money they can pay me going forward. And that lessens my spot on this team, the more money they pay you. So is it a bully type thing, or is he trying to test guys and see if they even,
I'm not sure.
if they're worthy of being on this 4 championship winning team?
And sometimes that could be that's a valid very point.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people hold that they still living in the past.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of athletes still hang on
I've
that.
been a big part of these 4
Yeah,
championships.
I've seen a lot of things on that. Well, here's what I would say to this, for really to sum Draymond up in a nutshell. Ivy, no matter what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with, there always comes a point where one more thing is just too much.
Yeah.
You just say, that's enough, it's enough. And I think the Warriors are there. But I think they value Draymond enough that they won't overreact initially.
Mm-hmm.
But I think behind the scenes there's already things. I really do. I mean, and it may never happen, but I mean, if it does, I think you go back to that incident
Yeah.
as the origin of that.
Remember when KD was about to, he was on his decision, stay or leave, get a contract. What happened? Draymond Green screams on him right there on TV.
Yeah, no
Bitch
doubt.
ass nigga, get out of here. We don't
Yeah.
want your, so it's rough. We'll see what happens. But Charles Thompson, man, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you greatly. Maybe we can do it again after this Bedlam win.
yeah,
I
sure.
don't know. We'll see.
We can do it again. Every time. Man, you my boy.
After Bedlam? After Bedlam?
Hey, we can do it after Bedlam. You not scared of me. We can do it again, man. Hey, Mister, you always been my guy, man. You've been good to me. So anytime I can come on this show, I'll be more than happy to.
Man, no problem. The great Charles Thompson, folks. Former OU Sooner, now just great football dad. Now we're just watching his kids. So we'll see what happens. CT, I appreciate you, man.
Go Cornhuskers.
Whatever you say, podcast, folks.
I don't think it's white folks. I think it's Negroes. I do not think this is white folks. It could be. It could be white folks. But I think it's Negroes. I think a Negro did this.
This is the Whatever You Say podcast.
The goal is not to be successful and famous. That's not the goal. The goal is, if you have a specific God-given ability, is to live your life out through that. We have a responsibility